I want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Jan Scruggs, and I'm the living footnote to history, the president of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. It's very, very nice to once again be here with all of you magnificent people. And we have an extremely interesting program today, if not somewhat historic, because of the recipients of the Medal of Honor. If you ever meet a Medal of Honor recipient, you don't say to him, you won the Medal of Honor. No, you actually received the Medal of Honor. It's not something you actually win. So a little footnote to history. This, by the way, as I think probably everyone knows, is actually Memorial Day. Memorial Day, by the way, evolved after the American Civil War. It was called Decoration Day, and that was the time when people, particularly the mothers and family members and fellow veterans, would decorate the graves of the fallen soldiers in that terrible conflict. And slowly but surely, someone finally had the idea to make this day encompass all of the nation's wars and those who gave their lives for our really great country. So we host this ceremony every year with the National Park Service, and we appreciate all they do. I also want to thank these incredible volunteers, and we couldn't do what we do without them. They're all wearing their little yellow hats. Yes, they serve without compensation, but they have so many magnificent experiences here. They meet so many people from all over the world, but especially people who are a part of the Vietnam War, the veterans, the survivors, and friends of those who served. So it's worth noting that this memorial had a great deal of controversy, and somebody told me in the middle of it all that this would one day be just nothing. The controversy would be a footnote to history, and indeed it was. Now this is millions of people come here year after year. We've tried to do a count, which is a little tough, but 100 million people or more, in all probability, have been here. Every year we get 4 million. Back in the early 80s, it was more like 2.5 million, but you sort of put it all together, and we've got 100 million visitors here, and that's 1 out of every 3 people in the United States. So it's a magnificent thing. As some of you know, we're about to build an education center across the street from the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. A very special place to commemorate and celebrate America's legacy of service, to show some of the items that have been left at the wall. We have some very substantial progress that we will be reporting here in just a few months. And we have through some very good luck, we got a couple of new people on our board of directors. Mr. Bill Murdy, who is a very well-known chief executive officer of corporations. He's known as a turnaround person. Ambassador Robert Kemet, and recently Admiral Tom Lynch, who is on New Day USA. You see him in a lot of these commercials, have joined the board of directors. We have some real horsepower, and we will get this done. And I will remain involved until this is built, and looking forward to it. But it's indeed an honor to have nearly a dozen Medal of Honor recipients. And I think there are 8 families here who have recently had a name engraved on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Is that correct? Would you all stand up, please? Every year we engrave some names. It's a very special, poignant time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, at this time it is my honor to introduce to you the Medal of Honor recipient, Gary Bikert. He will lead us in the invocation.
Would you please join me in a word of prayer? Father, today we have all gathered here in Washington at this very special place. And each of us have brought with us our own reasons for being here. We have brought with us our own memories, memories of a friend, of a loved one, of a father, a husband, a son, a brother. But whatever the reasons, whatever the memories, we have come here to remember and honor the service and sacrifice of not only those whose names are written on this wall, but so many others whose names are written on markers in Arlington, in cemeteries across this country, in cemeteries in France, the Philippines, Normandy, in isolated graves around the world. Names of those who throughout our history as a nation have given their all so that we could remain free. Father, Washington is a city filled with beautiful memorials and buildings inscribed with great words to honor and remember our heritage as a nation. It's a city filled with the message that this country was founded upon a love for freedom. And it is a city filled with the message that this country was also built upon the blood and sacrifice of men and women who loved freedom and who cared for others more than their own lives. It is their sacrifice, their willingness to serve and to defend this country regardless of the cost, that truly defines the spirit of America, that truly defines who we are as a nation, who we are as a people. Father, today we are humbled to be in the presence of these heroes, humbled by the spirit of their sacrifice. Lord, you taught us that greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. And Lord, we are humbled and give thanks for their acts of greater love. But Lord, we are also a people who are able to live in this country made free because of your greater love, a love that has blessed, has guided, and has protected this nation from its very beginning. So, Father, today we are humbled to be in your presence, and we give you thanks for your acts of greater love to us. And now, Lord, as a humbled people, we come before you and ask that as our hearts and our minds are open before you, may your greater love knit our hearts together and instill in each one of us a oneness of purpose, a oneness of spirit, the spirit that is America, so that we as a people, we as a nation may walk more worthy of your calling on our lives, so that we, with our lives and not just our words, may truly honor the sacrifice of so many that have made our country free. May you give us the strength, the grace, and the love we need so that each of us may return to our communities, our homes, our families, with a renewed vision and purpose to serve you, to serve others, and to serve our nation because we have been in the presence of those who have given their all, because we have been in the presence of one another, and because we have been in the presence of your greater love. Lord, we thank you that because of this love, we can come before you to ask these things. So, Lord, today as we gather here to remember and honor all those who have served and sacrificed for our freedom, we also ask that your greater love continue to bless this nation. May it continue to bless those that lead this nation. And may your greater love continue to protect the lives and the families of those who serve and defend this great nation each and every day. Lord, we humbly ask these things in your holy and blessed name above all names. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jim Knotts. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, and I'll be your Master of Ceremonies for today. Folks look at me and say, boy, you look awfully young to have served in Vietnam. And while the gray hair makes it look like I am of the same era as these distinguished gentlemen and our Vietnam veterans here, I'm actually a veteran of the first Persian Gulf War. And the reason that I sought out this position with the Vietnam The reason I sought out this position with the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund is because when I went to war for our nation, I received the support and the respect that our troops deserve. And I knew, like everyone knows who has worn the nation's uniform, that we owe a debt to those who came before us, and we have a responsibility to those who come after. And I know that I received the respect and the support that I needed when I went into harm's way because it was our Vietnam veterans who made a commitment that we will never, ever send a generation of Americans into harm's way without that support and respect. Thank you. So we're going to start the ceremony today with the presentation of our colors. And so I'm going to ask you to stand and have the color guard be prepared. The color guard today is the Navy Color Guard from the United States Military District of Washington. And I would ask the color guard to advance the colors. I would remind gentlemen to remove your hats, place over your heart. All veterans, whether in uniform or in civilian clothing, may render a hand salute during our national anthem. And now to sing the national anthem, please welcome musician first class Kenny Ray Horton from the United States Navy Band.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing. And now, please welcome the winner of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund Student Video Contest, Sean Quinn, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Please be seated. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, if you could stand up one more time. We're going to have the color guard retire the colors. Color guard, retire the colors.
Ready? Set.
Now, please be seated. Have a round of applause for our color guard. Each year, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund holds this annual Memorial Day observance in partnership with the National Park Service. So please welcome Sean Keneally, Acting Superintendent of the National Mall and Memorial Parks.
Good afternoon, veterans, families, honored guests. On behalf of the National Park Service, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, which was conceived and built on behalf of a grateful nation to honor and to recognize the more than 3 million American men and women who served in that conflict. I'd like to offer a special welcome to the veterans and their families who are here with us today. Welcome to your Vietnam Veterans Memorial. I'm humbled to spend this Memorial Day with you. Jan, it's been a privilege and honor to partner with you and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund at this hallowed place of remembrance for all of our fallen heroes. I want to congratulate you on your upcoming retirement and thank you for your many years of service to this great memorial. You have completed many projects to help the National Park Service preserve and protect the memorial. And I fondly remember how we worked together to replace the lighting system and the pathways here at this memorial 10 years ago. Your commitment to maintaining this memorial is truly appreciated by the National Park Service. This memorial is one of more than 400 sites that the National Park Service oversees, including 85 national battlefields, military parks, and monuments to those who defended our country. This wall, unique among the 407 sites that the National Park Service oversees, is a living, interactive memorial. Millions of visitors each year honor their friends, relatives, and even those they never met by leaving flowers, ribbons, medals, handwritten notes, and prayers, and other remembrances here at the base of the wall. The price of freedom is displayed not only in the names etched in the black stone of this memorial, but also in the mementos left, and in the responses of the visitors, which show how a nation's grief has been etched on our hearts of the American people. It is a place of healing where visitors find peace and comfort. Today, on Memorial Day, we pause to remember those who, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, gave the last full measure of devotion to their country. Etched on this wall are the names of 58,307 men and women who paid the ultimate price so that we could each know peace and freedom. Each and every one of them is a hero. We in the National Park Service are committed to ensuring that those who visit the memorial remember and honor them. And it's not just on Memorial Day or anniversaries or other selected dates throughout the year. Our rangers, our maintenance staff, and our volunteers work tirelessly each and every day to interpret and maintain this special memorial, and I want to thank each of them for their efforts. We are here every day of the year, watching over the memorial, passing along the stories of heroism to the current generation and honoring the sacrifices of those who came before us. The National Park Service is in the forever business, ensuring that this place will be protected and remembered into perpetuity. When your grandchildren's grandchildren visit, and their grandchildren after them, we will still be here. We will still be sharing those stories of heroism and revealing how the America we know today and the blessings we enjoy as a free people were shaped by the great Americans whose names are listed on this wall. Because of their courage, their willingness to fight and even die, America endures. We are deeply honored to be entrusted with the care of this memorial to their sacrifice. Thank you. I'm now pleased to introduce the founder and president of the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation, Diane Carlson Evans. Diane served with the Army Nurse Corps from 1966 to 1972 and served in Vietnam in 1968 and 1969. Diane has also been working with our partner, Eastern National, to continue the storytelling tradition at the Vietnam Women's Memorial. Diane.
It is a great privilege to speak on the day that has been officially set aside since 1868. Beyond those official days, though, that are set aside to remember those who fought and died for our country, there is an intuitive longing, a yearning, I think, to be among those of kindred spirits, to be together with those who spent time in defense of our country and with their families. An unspoken camaraderie exists here. It is powerful. And we draw strength and healing from the gratitude and respect that is demonstrated here today and every day. President Abraham Lincoln summed it up. He summed up the importance of remembering all fallen heroes when he said, "The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave and living heart, should swell into a mighty chorus of remembrance, gratitude, and rededication on this solemn occasion." Sometime later, in 1884, Oliver Wendell Holmes, the United States Supreme Court Justice, reflected on the Civil War, and he said, "We have shared the incommunicable experience of war. We have felt, we still feel the passion of life to its top. In our youths, our hearts were touched with fire." He went on to say that it is for us to bear the report to those who come after us, end of quote. Perhaps our greatest tribute to those who lost their lives in service to our country is in keeping their memories alive and bearing the report. We know that it is not enough to build memorials, have reunions, be good stewards for our state and national cemeteries, or to celebrate Memorial Day. We are duty-bound to educate our citizens and younger generations about the lives and the contributions of those men and women who paid the ultimate service to our country. We must unearth and share their stories, continue a discussion about the war itself and how it impacted our country and the world. More than 50 years after the end of World War II, 70 years actually, people realize the profound importance of hearing the stories of those World War II veterans as we lose them in great numbers every day. And now in lesser numbers are Korean veterans and Vietnam veterans. So today we thank John Dibble, chairman of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, and his board of directors. We thank Jan Scruggs, the founder of this memorial. We thank Jim Knott and their dedicated staff and advisors, the donors, for carrying forth the mantra of Oliver Wendell Holmes of bearing the report through the building of the Education Center here near the Wall of Names. We remember, too, the thousands of veterans who have died after the end of the war as a result of their service. War for the warrior does not end the day he or she comes home. Soldiers don't always die on the battlefield. They die years later from complications of an infectious wound, amputations that won't heal, stress-related heart attacks, mustard gas, Agent Orange, radiation exposure, and they die of suicide. As Minnesota Vietnam veteran Jerry Hansen wrote about his buddy Earl, Earl killed 4 Viet Cong at Tuiwa on August 16, 1966. Earl killed a 14-point buck near Duluth on October 22, 1971. Earl killed himself at home on April 7, 1979. Let us not deny the fact that we lose our fellow veterans to their own hands when life at home becomes so difficult, more difficult than the war itself. We remember them, and we remember their parents and their loved ones, their families, who suffered the loss, too, of this ultimate death and sacrifice. Sometimes following our service to country, we are questioned. What did we do in Vietnam? Why did we go to Vietnam? Years after the Vietnam War, one Navy nurse veteran said it best, quote, "If the American people could only have experienced what it felt like to be present when young men were dying, they would not have to ask me, should you have gone to Vietnam? To be the last human being to whisper some words of comfort into the ear, the last one to touch their cold hand or wipe their forehead was a privilege afforded to me," end of quote. As we honor the memory of our fallen men and women of the armed forces and those who served as civilians supporting the armed forces, we are thankful for the blessed time they had with us, and we are remorseful for the sacrifices they made for us. We owe them our commitment to work toward peace, and we owe them appreciation for the freedom and liberty their blood was shed for. We remember those people whose names we do not know, those who died in times and places we have not heard of and are buried around the world. We remember our POWs and MIAs, and we remember all those lives who were lost on September 11th and following September 11th. May our active duty troops around the world be kept safe from harm. May those who continue to suffer from the wounds of war find peace and healing. May those of us who are privileged to live sustain the American spirit through our promise to never forget and to not allow one single American to ever forget those we saw suffer and die and those thousands before us. Today, I announce my official retirement, as well as the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation's retirement. They are all here today with us. We are transferring the foundation's mission and assets to Eastern National, an agency working with the National Park Service that promotes the public's understanding and support of America's national parks and other public trust partners by providing quality education experience, products, and services. To that end, I extend my heartfelt thank you to the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation's Board of Directors, all past directors, our Executive Director, Colonel Cindy Gurney, and our thousands of volunteers, donors, supporters, and all who have given their precious gifts to be sure that the memorial was built. Those individuals and organizations made a tremendous difference in the lives of women veterans. And we thank our brother veterans for standing beside us all the way. We are grateful to Eastern National, who will be our caretakers, and we are grateful to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, who will continue to assure that the woman's voice is included and our programs will endure into the future. The Vietnam Women's Memorial places an image of American women in uniform military and civilian, firmly in the national conscience. Go in peace today, and remember, it has always been and always will be how much we care about each other that will win our battles, all of our battles, and triumph over tragedy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll be back.
Well, thanks so much to Diane and all of the other ladies from the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation for their dedication and commitment for all these many years. As Diane says, she's not dead yet. She'll be back. So we look forward to continue to work with them to maintain the legacy of the Women's Memorial as well. And now it is my pleasure to introduce David Williams, Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President of the United States Postal Service, for today's stamp dedication.
Thank you, Jim. We have several other representatives of the Postal Service with us today. First, I would like to thank Catherine Tobin for being with us. Catherine is a former member of our Board of Governors. She now serves on the Citizen Stamp Advisory Committee. Also with us today from the Postal Service are Cliff Rucker, an Army veteran and the Postal Service's Vice President of Sales. Chief Sustainability Officer Thomas Day, a West Point graduate and Army veteran, and Mary Ann Penner, our Acting Manager of Stamp Services. Thank you for joining us. We are here to dedicate 3 commemorative stamps and to pay tribute to Medal of Honor recipients from the war in Vietnam. We also remember today the sacrifice and patriotism of all veterans, including 2.7 million Americans who served in Vietnam. As with any war, the risks were great. More than 58,000 servicemen and women died, and almost 304,000 Americans were wounded. The bonds established on the battlefield are like no other. Memories of home and loved ones are important, but in battle, the primal need to survive forges a binding, fierce loyalty that is complete and pure. In its clearest form, battlefield loyalty is measured by a single, heroic response to an enemy's deadly threat. This response can result in lives saved and defeats avoided, always at great personal sacrifice and a high risk of death. Since 1863, our country has awarded the Medal of Honor to nearly 3,500 Americans who heroically responded to such threats. Today, we honor servicemen who in Vietnam reached this highest level of loyalty and valor. Last year, we invited the surviving Vietnam War Medal of Honor recipients to participate in today's issuance. The prestige folio stamp sheets we're issuing today depicts 48 of more than 50 living Vietnam War recipients. The folio also includes a list of deceased Vietnam veterans who received the Medal of Honor. I would like to recognize recipients who are with us today. I invite each to stand or wave as I call out their names. Bernie G. Atkins. Sergeant Atkins, a Green Beret, risked enemy fire to man a mortar position and later rescued several of his comrades. Gary Burnell Bykirk. Sergeant Bykirk, also a Green Beret, faced withering enemy fire to provide relief to wounded comrades. Patrick Henry Brady. In a single day, Army Major Brady flew 3 helicopters, braved enemy fire, and evacuated 51 wounded men. Jack Howard Jacobs. While under enemy fire, Army Lieutenant Jacobs rescued a U.S. military advisor and 13 Allied soldiers. Thomas Gunning Kelly. Navy Lieutenant Kelly, the commander of 8 river craft, overcame serious wounds to successfully lead his command to safety. James Michael Sprayberry. Army Lieutenant Sprayberry used hand grenades to destroy a string of enemy bunkers that had pinned down his unit. Kenneth Edward Stumpf. Army Specialist Stumpf rescued 3 wounded comrades and then destroyed a series of enemy bunkers. Brian Mills Thacker. During an enemy attack on his fire base, Army Lieutenant Thacker organized a tactical retreat, stayed behind to order artillery fire on his position, and then successfully eluded the enemy for 8 days. Leo Keith Thorsness. Air Force Major Thorsness piloted his F-105 fighter bomber through surface-to-air missile attacks and engaged the enemy MiG fighters while running low on fuel to protect 2 comrades parachuting to safety after their aircraft had been shot down. He was later shot down over North Vietnam and taken prisoner, enduring 6 years of captivity and torture. Gary George Wetzel. Army Specialist Wetzel, a helicopter door gunner, defended his downed craft and helped save injured comrades despite sustaining severe wounds from enemy rocket fire. Thank you all for your service, your valor, and your loyalty. On Memorial Day in 1984, a serviceman killed in Vietnam was interred at the nearby Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. That day, President Ronald Reagan, in remarks honoring this brave serviceman, said, and I quote, "We may not know of this man's life, but we know his courage. He may not have wanted to be a hero, but there was a need. He accepted his mission and he did his duty, and his honest patriotism overwhelms us. On this Memorial Day, we salute veterans of Vietnam who have earned the Medal of Honor. Their patriotism overwhelms us. Their courage stirs us, and their character inspires us. We are grateful for their loyalty and sense of duty. Speaking for the Postal Service, I am proud to dedicate these stamps to men who have brought honor to themselves and to their country. They have earned the heartfelt thanks of our more than 600,000 employees and Americans everywhere. Thank you for your service and for your sacrifice. And thank you, everyone, for being with us today. Please join us at the top of the knoll to your right, where you can see and purchase the stamps. If the Medal of Honor recipients and selected guests will join me, we will unveil the Medal of Honor Vietnam War Limited Edition Forever Stamps.
Mr. Williams and Mr. Scruggs, will you please do the honors? Thank you, gentlemen. And now it is my pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker, United States Army Colonel Jack Jacobs.
I have to move the microphone down, as you can see. If ever there is a definitive history of the United States written, it's unlikely that it'll contain the names of any of the people on this wall. But make no mistake, each one is just as important as, and probably much more important than the names of any of the people you do remember, whether they volunteered or they were randomly selected by an arbitrary system. Their names are a glorious beacon for all those who value liberty above all other things, because it's our freedom and the freedom of tens of millions of other people that resulted from their service and their sacrifice. Now, we all love a good time, and there's nothing wrong with gathering friends and family to relax and enjoy a nice afternoon off and to eat too much, which is what I do every time. But you're here today because you haven't forgotten why this is a holiday. Now, in Philadelphia, at the end of the Constitutional Convention, there was a woman on the street who accosted Benjamin Franklin and asked him what kind of government had they forged. A republic, madam, he said, if you can keep it. Well, we have kept it, and we have kept it because of the efforts of all the men and women who died for that freedom, who came after that convention and since. These people whose names are on the wall behind are my brothers and sisters. They are your brothers and sisters. They are the brothers and sisters of all 320 million people for all of us who are lucky enough to call the United States home. Almost 200 years ago, a British philosopher named John Stuart Mill said, "War is a terrible thing, but it's not the worst of things. A man for whom nothing is more important than his personal safety is a miserable creature who is made free and kept free by the exertions of better men than he." We are all in debt to these people. They are, in our minds, forever young. And even though they died when they were young, they made a larger contribution to our liberty, greater than all of the captains of industry, all of the bureaucrats, and certainly all of the politicians. I didn't mean to be political, but there you go. I'm frequently asked, what do I think about on Memorial Day? Same as I do every day, the sacrifice of young people so that we can be free. It is our mission to make sure that we don't squander their sacrifice, but most of all, that we do not ever forget. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Colonel Jacobs. It's always a pleasure to hear your inspirational words. And at this time, I would like to ask the representatives of the organizations laying wreaths today to please come forward. And while they get in position, I have some acknowledgments I want to make. But before we get to the acknowledgments, I have a singular honor. You heard earlier that we add names to the wall each year. We work with the Department of Defense that manages the process that they've put in place for determining eligibility for being on the wall. Every year we add a number of names, anywhere from 1 or 2 to 12 or 13. Last month we actually added 7 names and reinscribed 1, and it is my honor to do the Memorial Day reading of these names for the first time. Francis Corcoran, Michael Knight, Gannon Milby Jr., Charlie Staley, Stanley Stazak, Clarence Turpin, and George Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me to thank those families that are here and these additional names we've added to the wall of these men for their sacrifice. Along with them, I'd also like to recognize our Gold Star families for coming out today. For those of you who are not familiar, the Gold Star denotes someone who has lost a loved one who has died in service to our nation. So thank you to our Gold Star families. Please be seated. I also want to call your attention to the flag on the East Knoll. Would like to say thanks to the Massachusetts Visual Society for providing the flag display, and they have done so for more than 30 years now. And I would ask all of you to go over to the East Knoll on your way departing the memorial site today and look at the 3 red banners. Those 3 red banners display the 7,038 names of the fallen from Iraq and Afghanistan. And I want to echo Jan Scruggs' thanks to the National Park Service volunteers who work here at the wall. They do so much to honor and remember our veterans every day, and the staff of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund for their hard work all year long. Thank you. Thanks to the National Newspaper Association for their efforts to help collect photos of all of our Vietnam veterans. We're looking forward to a very special announcement from them in the coming weeks related to that effort. There are 58,307 names on this wall, and we have collected just over 40,000 photos of the people represented by their sacrifice. And now, allow me to direct your attention to the representatives of several of our nation's leading veteran service organizations. For many years, they have joined our tradition of laying wreaths at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in honor of the fallen. Those who gave the last full measure of devotion to America and the cause of freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome bagpiper Chris Jackson, who will be playing Amazing Grace, as well as bugler Staff Sergeant Jeffrey Strong from the United States Marine Band, who will play taps after the leaves have been laid. Please stand as you are able as we lay our wreaths. National Park Service, Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation, Military Order of the Purple Heart, American Gold Star Mothers, American Gold Star Wives, Sons and Daughters in Touch, the 25th Infantry Division Memorial Committee, United States Postal Service, 5th Battalion, 7th Cavalry Association, Wreaths Across America. Medal of Honor, Army. Medal of Honor, Navy. American Legion. Vietnam Veterans of America. Veterans of Foreign Wars, Associates of Vietnam Veterans of America, Medal of Honor, Air Force, UAW Local 1714 Veteran Committee. 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, PTSD Group, Washington, D.C. Verizon Veterans Advisory Board, Vietnam Veterans Memorial Association, Vietnam Veterans Motorcycle Association, Tan Son Hut Association, Scottish American Military Association, Amerasian Children of Vietnam Veterans, the Intruder Association, Disabled American Veterans, Swords to Plowshares Memorial Bell Tower, 28th Infantry Regiment Association, Paralyzed Veterans of America, and all the other organizations that are here with us today. Please remain standing for the playing of taps. I would ask you all to remain standing until the honor guard has departed. Please take your seats. Where did Jan go? Jan, can you come up to the podium, please? Well, it is my duty to thank Jan finally. Jan is the person that conceived of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial and has been a staunch supporter of the efforts to thank our Vietnam veterans, to promote the healing and delivering the honor and respect that they all deserve for more than 30 years. He is officially retiring at the end of June. So please give one more round of applause to Jan and all of his efforts. Thank you. In closing, let me encourage each of you to reach out and thank and honor our veterans and their families, not just on Memorial Day, but every day of the year. Thank you all for coming. That concludes our ceremony for today. To all of our Vietnam veterans, welcome home.